Hi again, everyone. Marissa True here, yet again. So for our next session, we're going to discuss NFTs, the next level of entertainment. And for that, we've got a panel that spans gaming, sports, and art. So please welcome on stage Philip Vonthron, the head of integrated partnerships at Flow Sports. Hi, Philip.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, thank you. And on screen, we have Matt Boseo, the COO of Draper, Goren, Holm. We have Joab Garza. Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Joab, yeah, you're right.
Okay, thank God for that. He was the founder of GIF Games, and Patricia Gloum, founder of Brawhaus. Welcome to all of you. Thanks for dialing in and joining us.
Hey,
Thanks for having us.
nice to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you again. So we actually first spoke in Art Basel, Miami. Listen, it doesn't need to be said. I mean, NFTs have been very much the focus of the conversation in the past year as it pertains to anything blockchain or Web3 or metaverse related. And it has permeated all aspects of entertainment. So regardless of whether you're bullish or whether you're bearish on the space, somehow you would have come across and interacted with this NFT opportunity. So for this conversation, like I said, we're going to dig into how it's been applied across gaming, art, and actually even venture capital. But to start off the conversation, we're going to do a little backgrounder on each of you. So Philip, to start, can you tell us what Flow Sports is and what your role is there?
Sure. Flow Sports is a sports media company dedicated to serving underserved sports. By underserved, I mean, before Flow Sports, these communities didn't get the love, the content coverage, the broadcast professionalism that the big four were getting. We now cover 25 different sports like wrestling, all sorts of running, dirt racing, grappling, gymnastics, cheer, kind of the list goes on and on. And we really, we stream live events. We do about 30,000 a year. We produce original content around the sports that they love. We do training tips and all sorts of sports advice, highlights, rankings, you name it. But what we're really excited about is kind of our social community. It's tens of millions of people that are hyper engaged with us, and we think that kind of lends itself well to the NFT space.
And what about your role as head of integrated partnerships? What does that entail?
Yeah, so I'm in charge of generating revenue via advertising, sales, and partnerships, and kind of working with brands to find out what their objectives are, and then coming up with really cool, unique concepts for them to engage our audience in kind of an authentic way.
And Joab, in terms of the gaming space, tell us a bit more about GIF Games and also Tezotopia.
Right, yeah. So GIF Games specializes in creating blockchain games, play-to-earn games, and really creating an ecosystem within itself to support all the games that we are planning to release. Tezotopia is our first game that we released on the Tezos network, and it's coming up on a year now that it's launched its first block of land. So we started off with virtual real estate, and on May the 4th will be our 1-year anniversary, and we're pretty proud of that, and continuing to receive support from the Tezos network and everyone involved. Yeah.
And then Patricia, can you share a bit more about Brawhaus?
Yeah, so Brawhaus is a creative studio, and I'm more specialized in NFT creative studio, as well as we do some digital art curation. And we have been exploring and discovering and elevating digital artists since 2018.
And Matt, last but not least, for the uninitiated, can you share a bit more about Draper, Goren, Holm and what it does?
Yeah, be my pleasure. Draper, Goren, Holm is an early stage blockchain startup studio and fund. We also host some of the largest events in the blockchain space, such as LA Blockchain Summit, NFT Summit, Security Token Summit, so on and so forth. We've been a big player in the Tezos ecosystem for a little while now, but we also take a holistic approach to blockchain investment.
Fantastic. Well, pleasure to meet all of you, and thank you so much for sharing about what each of your entities do. To kick off with the conversation, I want to bring it back to Philip, and I want to shine a light on the recent integration with Tezos. What is the status of that, and what essentially are you looking to do?
Yeah, so we're completely new to the kind of NFT landscape. Obviously, we're excited to be partnering with Tezos. as they kind of introducing us to partners and lending their expertise in the process. But I think, the overall strategy is being able to create NFTs that are going to provide some sort of value to our audience, potentially the athletes that we're working with, our third-party rights partners, and maybe even a reward system for Flow subscribers as well as Flow employees.
And then Joab, with Tezotopia, so I believe that enables people to create their own virtual worlds or their own metaverse. So can you tell us a bit more about that and how that incorporates NFTs?
Yeah, so as I touched on, we launched with virtual real estate, but the thing that made our NFTs a little different was that there was cryptocurrencies or tokenized resources that were in-game assets that are worth value. And so when the players own a piece of land on Tezotopia, they are earning cryptocurrency just by holding that piece of land. So, as if it were a oil producing piece of land that was always producing natural resources, that's essentially what players are able to do in Tezotopia, and they're able to earn in-game assets that they can, trade for Tezos, or they trade it and create battle units or improve upon their land they currently hold. So it's, like I said, creating an ecosystem, but also creating an internal economy within the game itself that players are able to take advantage of and make use of.
And then hopping back over to the art world, Patricia, can you share a bit more about how Brawhaus is approaching NFTs as it relates to the digital art world? So like, how have they been used so far amongst the artists that you work with?
So far, it has been used as a digital signature, because now it's amazing that this technology finally can authentify all these digital artists that have been existing for years, and they could not really have a place in art in general, because it was really hard to make people understand that you can actually collect digital art. So because of that, that's like it opens a huge new art movement that we're super excited to be part of, and entering this new acceptance in the world in general. And as well, I'm saying it's where we use this more with brands that are understanding as well the value of digital artists, and they're excited as well to explore these routes, collaborating with digital artists and make those bridge that bridge between digital artists and brands and create together, and as well like feature those digital artists. So that's how we mainly use NFTs.
So finding a lot more opportunity for collaboration in that sense. So in that, we've covered
Yes.
sports, we've covered games, we've covered art. But Matt, I want to ask you, as kind of a more of a generalist or a top level view of everything, what is your perspective on NFTs? Like, which parts of this space excite you the most, or what opportunities are you seeing arise that you're focusing in on?
Yeah, that's a great question. From my personal perspective, NFTs are here to stay, right? They're not going away anytime soon, and they're just going to, the art side of it is just that gateway, right? As more and more brands get into it, like Flow Grappling, I say Flow Grappling because my son's a grappler, so Philip, shout out. It's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger. As for what areas we're focused on, or I'm focused on as well, that I find entertaining and still some massive opportunity, is the infrastructure around it, right? The on-ramps and the off-ramps. As more and more average consumers start asking questions about it, I don't know about you guys, but I just get questions constantly from friends and family members. How do they get into it? It's not that easy, right? So we need to make better on-ramps and off-ramps for everyone involved.
Yeah, and I think that's
as well as
probably
educating.
Can you repeat that, please? I interrupted you.
As well as educating, what Matt said, because because our role as well is to educate all these people that ask us how can they get in. So we can tell them, just tell them a little bit about it, but also maybe like show them and help them, open a crypto wallet and spend some time to even buy with them a first NFT.
So in that sense, education is almost the first on-ramp before the actual on-ramping process, and then off-ramping is its own little Everest in itself.
Yeah, there's we're just downloading all the information we currently can, and then obviously we're having to educate everybody internally in our office and start educating all of our rights partners. And then I think the most important step of that is actually educating our audience about it, and listening to their input and feedback, and kind of just creating from there.
So Philip, on that thread, what sort of stage are you currently at in this education process?
So this is a brand new partnership. It started in January, so we are still in kind of the discovery phase of figuring out which partners we want to work with to kind of take our strategy where it is going to go. But I think we have an overall general sense of the strategy that we're trying to take, and kind of creating things and unique experiences for fans, that are super passionate about their sports, and kind of opening up a new realm for them, while also, educating ourselves and preparing for Web3.
So while you work out the finer details, what is sort of the big picture vision you have in mind for Flow Sports in this space?
The bigger picture is, we always have to stay as a company ahead of the game and be involved. And Web3 is coming. I go to my gym every morning. I constantly hear talks about NFTs. I go get my haircut every week. My barber's talking about it. It's here. It's here to stay. And as the way people communicate differently, more peer-to-peer, I just feel like it's coming, and we have to be prepared for it. And I think part of our bigger vision of this is just preparing ourselves and our audience for this this change.
So making sure that the company is very future forward.
Exactly.
And future proofing itself in a way.
Of course.
But amidst all of this enthusiasm, whether it's at the barbershop, the supermarket, the art gallery, or when you're live streaming games, there's a lot of bandwagoning in this space, I would say. And the enthusiasm, I think bandwagoning actually serves a great purpose in that it's spurring these conversations. But across each of your worlds, I want to keep this question open to all of you. How do you actually evaluate the opportunities that are being presented to you, whether you're working with an artist, or you're developing or engaging with a new type of game, or even potentially an investment opportunity? How do you establish or determine for yourself what a quality project or artwork or game looks like?
Well, it's really hard, but I mean, we look at it and we try to say, like, hey, how is this providing value or a new experience to someone who's really passionate about something? And I think that's the main thing that we're looking for. And then revenue is important. Can it generate revenue for our company, for our subscribers, potentially for the athletes that we're working with, or our third-party partners? And how can we build this up as a reward system to provide more value to our audience?
And then Patricia, when you're curating and working with specific artists, how do you evaluate their engagement with NFTs beyond just the aesthetic quality of their art?
Some artists actually they're not really aware of NFTs and what can NFT technology bring to their work. So actually we're as well interested in looking for digital artists that don't really know about that about the blockchains or the ecosystem, and that's how as well we bring them on so they can really have a place as an artist. So that's how we evaluate as well in that sense. And technicality wise, I mean, we as well mainly look for people in the NFT as artists that have a technique that is interesting, or their story is interesting, or they're not just doing it for the hype, that they have a true message behind their work, and they have a true sensibility to them.
So in that sense, the process doesn't change too much. It's just about adding the technological layer above that and seeing how to deliver that in a way that's actually meaningful.
Yes, exactly.
And then Joab, when you are designing, playing, interacting with games, I mean, you touched upon a couple key terms or buzzwords as they might be known as, like play to earn, the metaverse, digital real estate. So how is it that you deliver this idea of value in the games that you create and make sure that it isn't just hype?
Yeah, I think from the onset of Tezotopia, we spent a lot of time investing in cultivating a community. And I think when we do collaborations with other NFT projects or artists. I think looking into a strong community and seeing, does that have legs to go on to the future? Are the developers or the artists, are they constantly communicating, with their community and being engaged? I think that's really important in a lot of these projects, especially in the crypto space. I think communication goes a long way, and I'm proud of what we built with our community, in that now you have just regular people helping others get started on the game and onboard onto the game and answering questions within the community. And I think it's something that goes a long way, and something that we've invested a lot of time in. And that's one of those things that you can do for free, and it doesn't take marketing. It actually creates organic marketing, creates a whole army of cheerleaders saying like, hey, check out Tezotopia, or hey, look at Tezotopia. Whenever someone, say like a Gary Vee or somebody posts like, what's the hottest NFT project, you'll see like Tezotopia people on there. And so it's something really valuable to have a strong community, and something that we owe a lot of our success to, is and to bringing on new people, is our community.
I mean, I think that's a fantastic way to look at it, because it basically flips the script and saying we need to find the purpose and the value and work backwards, rather than saying we need to let the community determine what's valuable for themselves and let them cultivate that for themselves, and then we can just facilitate it further through whatever technology we have available to us. And I think that's probably a fairly new development in that sense, in terms of this more two-directional conversation that's taking place between the platforms that you guys each interact with.
And it not only gives them, a sense of like a community, but it also gives them a sense of ownership. Like, they've invested money into these NFTs, and they've invested into the vision of the game. And now with the community, they feel supported, right? And with the leaders of the community, they also feel supported, and that you're constantly giving them, our vision and roadmap, and, things ahead and latest announcements. And I think it is a different model when you're, building a crypto company, because it is the sense of decentralization. It's a sense of democratization of everyone has a voice, everyone has input, and everyone has ownership of what's going on. So it is definitely a new model, and one I'm so here for.
Yeah, so when we look at NFTs as, the title of the session being the next level of entertainment, it's because of that constant engagement and interaction between the different brands, companies, platforms, users, and then, I mean, at Flow Sports, I assume the athletes themselves, the sport representatives themselves.
Yeah, the athletes themselves, third-party rights partners, and we're excited about potentially expanding our audience for people who aren't familiar with Flow Sports' verticals. They might bring some sort of technology that will enhance the sport in some sort of way.
So in terms of the integration with Tezos, what are the specific sports that you're looking to involve this technology with?
Sure. So Tezos is the official blockchain partner of our company. So you're going to see them from a media perspective, at least across all of our sports. But we really kind of zeroed in on 3 verticals, specifically grappling, wrestling, and dirt racing, because after doing some research, we found that there was already just this massive affinity towards crypto, towards NFTs, towards blockchain that we wanted to kind of leverage at first.
And Matt, you were saying that, did you say your son was a massive fan?
Yeah, I got to pick your brain on a few things.
So in terms of that, like that crossover, the excitement that you demonstrated when it came to understanding that there was, this partnership taking place between a sport that you loved within your family and a technology that you recognize and work readily with, what kind of value did you derive from that experience?
Yeah, so this is a great question, and it really isn't just me, right? Just going back to your last question about assessing projects and things going on in the market. To me, it's all about people and community around it, right? So whether I'm putting on my personal collector's hat or my VC hat, who are the leaders of these projects, and who are the communities that they surround themselves with? Given where DGH plays in that early stage blockchain startup, really it's all about the leaders in there. But just thinking about the flow, the flow grappling, for example. I mean, the minute I walked into the local gym in our area, and people knew what I did for a career, they said, "Hey, I was just watching Flow Grappling TV and saw that Tezos was on there. What's that all about?" You know, there's already an established community there. So to even think about what the possibilities are in with a brand that has that community around it, I mean, the value of that is just immeasurable right now, because we don't know what that looks like. Because there's so many creative people with brands such as Flow Grappling. To see where that goes is, I'm anxious. I'm excited as a fan of Tezos and as a collector.
I mean, I think anxious excitement is a great way to express what's going on in this space. Philip, did you want to add a comment to that?
No, I didn't. Okay.
So then in that, we're seeing a lot of marketing activations that are happening around this space and tapping into these fan communities and getting people to start having this conversation. But again, we come back to this term of almost bandwagoning, as it were. And like, how do you each feel that you carve out a narrative or a justification for why this is so critically important to each of your industries, whether it's sports, whether it's art, or whether it's gaming? We've touched upon the notion of community. We touched upon the notion of ownership and new monetization opportunities. But what is it that makes it so industry specific or helpful to your respective industries? Why don't we start with Joab?
Well, I think it brings an evolution to gaming, essentially. You've had examples of it in the past where you have digital items and digital assets, but now that they're on chain, now that they're claimable, now that they're essentially tangible in a way where you can prove that you own it and have ownership for it and can trade it and sell it or keep it and earn from it. You know, the possibilities are essentially up to the imagination of the creators, where that digital asset can mean something else and could immerse you into an environment that's a lot different. So one thing that we got on our roadmap is this virtual Vegas metaverse that we are working on. And so the idea of immersing yourself and collecting, say, you know, there's only 100 or so NFTs that represent this one prized MMA fighter. And then you can embody that MMA fighter in the ring and they can place bets on it, or you can earn money off of it. The possibilities are massive and awesome because crypto and NFTs, it's this great marriage of things that allows you to earn cryptocurrency and then use that cryptocurrency, like in our game, to build things within the game, within the ecosystems that are created. So it's something really exciting for the future. And I feel like, I think touching on to the how do we on-ramp people, but keeping them, you know, in the ecosystem, I think it's really important for, you know, developers of crypto wallets to also evolve with what's happening. And the way to navigate through how you view your NFTs on the wallet is going to have to change. They're going to have to take the responsibility of kind of like how web browsers show web pages, because the difficulty to navigate through your NFTs and how they're going to evolve. And, you know, NFTs may replace email. NFTs may replace how you receive news. Like you may get airdropped breaking news into your wallet. You know, how is that going to look? And so it's a lot of these opportunities that are happening that are very exciting and very new and very for our, you know, gaming industry. There's so much, you know, potential that we can do to not only reignite, you know, old gamers, which we see in Tesotopia, which we see people are like that have played games in the past and they're now excited about it, and they were just crypto investors and now they're you know, getting excited about gaming again, but also just traditional gamers. How do we help them, you know, earn passive income and play to earn and you know, just make this something that's not just a side hustle, but could also just be like something that they're doing and actively pursuing as a career.
So the possibilities are really endless. And then Patricia, what about within the art world? Why are they so fundamental and so critical to the growth of the art industry?
Yeah, so I wanted to jump on what Joab said about like the idea of so what's amazing with like actually with the NFTs that magazines, for example, as well, like they can, you know, thanks to the NFT, you can get like a membership to a magazine and then receive news per month. And actually, there's one that's called The Tickle. It's an object.com, and then you can see what's like they feature 2-3 digital artists every time, and then you get that drop on your wallet, so you can have all the information about those artists. And sometimes as well they drop you art collectibles. So it's exciting to see that NFTs as well can bring this type of memberships, I guess we can say it like this. And as well, where do I get excited about hopping on the bandwagon is the idea that like for brands or for the advertising world and the creative world, it opens completely new ways of creating content. And I can see that brands are getting more creative. They take more risks. They as well, they get creative with the idea of attaching utilities with the NFTs, and that gives a lot of bandwidth to play with. And the idea as well to always reward somehow the artists. So there's always a little bit of a royalties that are attached for them. And I love that idea that like everyone can receive a little bit of the piece of the cake, and not just as like an old model. And now it's like we can all like get the royalties tokenization around those NFTs. So that's exciting.
Yeah, so really focusing on the democratization of this space. And then, Philip, what about within the sports world?
Sure. I mean, for just the unlimited possibilities that are out there in sports, from experiences to live events to ticketing. But it's real. What I really think comes down to is also discovery. Like, I came here and I visited this Block Talks, and you guys have some great experiences going on here. I was actually able to NFT myself, a 3D version of myself, 360 degrees that I can now put in the metaverse. I'm like totally mind blown about it. I was also able to collect like a limited edition sneaker NFT that now anytime I want to put it on in AR, I can. I just think that it's such an exciting time. And, when I go around and I talk to everybody here, everybody's willing to help you too and kind of understand it. And I feel like that's such a great community thing, and that lends itself really well to sports.
And then Matt, beyond gaming, sports, and art, what are the other industries that you really see the potential of this technology becoming paramount in?
Yeah, the opportunities are endless, right? I mean, and you're going to see that evolve shortly over time. The healthcare industry, right, I think is a big opportunity there. Membership rewards, loyalty programs. I can go on and on and on, but I know we have certain time limits to abide by. But everything you just heard here is going to set that foundation, right? You have artists, you have brand marketing people who are just extremely creative when it comes to ideating things. And that's where all of a sudden you're going to start opening the eyes to some of these larger corporations, and you're really going to start seeing some explosion over the next, I would say, year to 2 years in the NFT space, and it's not going anywhere. It's just going to keep getting bigger.
So one thing that's often touched upon in these conversations around NFTs is how visible, or not tangible per se, but like how much people are interacting with the underlying tech infrastructure, or feeling like they're feeling the friction points because the user experience is still being developed. So one thing I want to ask is, what sort of timeline do you actually see before this is more rendered invisible and this is just a technology that we happen to interact with without real conscious awareness of? Matt,
is that directed to me?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's interesting. And being a follower of a countless number of Discord channels, you can see some of the frustration in some of the users. Like, wait a minute, what do you mean you don't have a fully developed platform yet, or so on and so forth? You're seeing projects in IT that traditionally take corporations 3 to 5 years to develop. You are at the ground floor in getting in on these. You need to have that patience. You need to evaluate the leadership team, the community around it, right? And you really need to be patient as these projects continue to evolve. We are so early, right? I mean, you look at some of the stats on, I'm going to throw out a portfolio company, Lunar Crush, and you see how much the industry has evolved over the last year alone. I think it was like 30x the last time I looked at some of those stats. We are so early. You have to have patience in these projects and believe in what these artists and these gamers and these sports brands are doing. I'm telling you, it's going to be special over the next two years. I'll put it at.
And I think that is another important reminder, is that we are so early in this game. And that's why, I mean, same with the integration of Flow Sports, you're very much at the exploratory stages of this. What are some of the questions that you actually have that you feel need to be answered as you're venturing more deeper and deeper down this rabbit hole?
I think it's, how are we truly providing value to everybody that's involved in it? I think it's a lot of the questions revolve around the education process. How do we get the word out, not only to internally and externally to our partners and athletes, but really to our audience? And I think it's a constant communication. And how do we manage that information back and forth? And how do we make it more community-based and peer-to-peer?
And I think another interesting thing we need to touch upon is when we talk about this idea of community, there is very much a native crypto community, and then there are the communities that are cultivated by brand followings, and how we're actually going to bridge the gap between those. So what is the education piece? This is a question that's open for all. What is the education piece that's going to be the most critical in kind of bridging that conversation and helping these communities to merge, or not necessarily overlap too much, but just start having a conversation between the two spaces?
There are some partnerships that we are considering working with that kind of provide, I guess, an easier way for you to just purchase an NFT right off the bat, and then have some, I guess, descriptions and explanations on how to potentially transfer it. But that's kind of a big part of what we're exploring, as well as how do we make it more readily available to the people who aren't very familiar with it.
So that's where, I guess, the on-ramp hurdle of the user experience itself is going to be absolutely fundamental in terms of encouraging mass adoption. But on this notion of mass adoption, which, Matt, as you rightfully said, the amount of progress that we've made in a year is astonishing. And we're seeing, more and more brand partnerships. We're seeing emerging artists get more involved in this space, as well as traditional artists trying to explore this technology. And of course, Joab, in gaming, we're seeing a huge explosion in play-to-earn, metaverse, land development, and so on. But what comes next, in your guys' view? What's the next phase of development that we really need to look at here, or that you think is coming? Joab?
This is where I think you're going to start seeing more major corporations starting to get involved, right? Not the decentralized so much. It's going to be major brands getting involved and starting to expand on what we're seeing happen in that decentralized realm. That's just a guess, though. It's anyone's. I know it's going to be big. I know it's going to be major corporations jumping in. What it ends up looking like is, man, the opportunities are endless.
Yeah.
And I think it's whatever we think it's going to be might end up changing in 6 months, and we'll have to adapt to continue to change it as things get developed.
Yep.
It is just the beginning, and we're really very early adopters. And as Matt said, I think more brands are going to adopt it, and maybe there's going to be new sectors opening in the brands itself or the companies itself that is mainly going to be focused on using that technology in order to open other doors, and that's where it's exciting to see that we're heading into that direction.
I think that it's an exciting time for developers in general, and groups are developing at really fast paces because it's so exciting. What we've created in such a short period of time is an example of that. But as more comes to light and as more is explored, I think you're going to see NFTs being a bigger player in the blockchain space. They may, like I mentioned, they may even replace email, or older Web 2 things that kind of need an evolution. There's so much opportunity with NFTs that it can just completely change how we interact with the internet in general. And all the tools that are being built so quickly. So it could be 6 months from now where things are changing, new things are introduced, and search is different, email's different, how you get the news is different. And so this space is moving fast, and I agree with everyone. We're so early, and it's so exciting.
Especially with all these projects trying to create new utility, right? They're trying to be the first to create that new utility for their particular project. And that's where, 3 to 6 months, everything we know could change. And that's what's so exciting about this space.
I think this conversation is going to be great to look at in 6 months' time and wonder which ones of these predictions actually manifested and which ones were completely off base because it went left or right or a complete new direction. But the benefit of being so early in this space is that you essentially get to drive the ship. And I think what we're seeing is on this panel alone, we're looking at both a top-down approach and a bottom-up approach. So with Brawhaus and with Gift Games, you're very much at like the crux of the development and cultivating the communities and cultivating the technology that people can interact with in this space. And then with Flow Sports and with Draper, Goren, Holm, we're looking at the legitimacy of it all, because big brands are starting to engage with this technology and in that offer it credibility that was often dismissed in the past year, or often met with skepticism, occasionally rightful skepticism, but skepticism nonetheless. And then in the VC space, the actual funding, the capital flow that's going to keep this space alive. But then as we have this top-down, bottom-up approach, there's always that little gulf in the middle. So what is it going to take to bridge that gap to have these conversations across the major corporations, the VCs, and then the people who are building this tech from the ground up?
Keep building credibility, keep showcasing and telling what we are here to be elevating about. And slowly things are going to be falling into the puzzle alone. We're already, I think, navigating in that flow. So I don't think we need to do so much. We're already doing it.
There's definitely movement happening, right? Dare I say, though, I don't want to go there, but do we need guardrails, right? Some type of regulation in there to help guide that, because we don't know what is on the horizon when it comes to regulation. We might have some type of idea. I think there needs to be some type of guardrails out there, because that's what's going to really unlock the innovation in this space, is by knowing what you can and cannot do, what is considered a security versus not a security. I think that's what's really going to blow up this space big.
I think that's an interesting point in terms of using guardrails, or almost like bumpers in a bowling alley, to sort of guide the conversation slightly and hopefully end up with a strike if we're lucky. But I mean, in this space is notorious for not really leaning towards regulation and rules, and it's very much this open and free space to encourage this greater innovation. So I think that's always going to be a bit of a challenge that we're going to see unfold in the next years, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, years, 10 years. We've actually only got about 5 minutes left on the clock, and this conversation's been fantastic so far. But one thing I want to ask each of you is sort of what lesson that you've learned within your industry and its involvement in this space that you would like others in this industry to take forward. So Philip, let's start with you about
I was just thinking about memorabilia, like sports memorabilia or collectibles, and I was actually having a conversation just outside earlier, and I was just like, well, can an NFT be changed or sold to different brand advertisers over a specific amount of time? It was just a question. I was just like, wow, I don't know the answer to that, but as things are upgradable, I think it might be something that can be possible, which opens up a whole new opportunity for advertising. So just something to think about.
So a new opportunity to explore, essentially.
Yes.
And then, Joab, what about in the gaming world?
I think being flexible and allowing the flow of the technology to kind of help you evolve as a company, and jumping on the opportunities that present themselves, within the space, and experimenting. Did this work? Did this? I mean, it's so new, right? So always being open to that experimenting, and having yourself say, hey, it's okay that part failed, but we can always fix it, and we can always evolve and change. And then just open and clear communication with your community is one thing that I've learned to really value, and it has gone a long way for us.
So in that sense, it's don't be overly prescriptive about what this technology should be, but more about what it could be, and letting that unfold naturally. Right. And then Patricia, Correct. What about in the art world?
The lesson of what's exciting is that like connecting, like creating new, thanks to that actually, is just creating a new type of language. And the idea of like now we can finally, educate more about that language, share about that language, connect with different communities, and get people interested into some communities or worlds that weren't interested. They were not interested before. Like for example, now with Art Basel, all the DeFi crypto communities and even venture capitalists, they weren't really aware of that, and now they're, thanks to the NFT idea, this whole new community is getting excited about coming to Art Basel and then get to be more connected to the art world in a non-conventional way. So it's super nice to see that, like a new different communities connecting. And another thing that I learned as well, or like an advice, I mean, is just that actually it's exciting when you have an idea and you see or feel something that continue believing in it, because actually if it makes sense to you, it will make sense to others. And why do I say that? It's because we've really been showcasing digital art since 2018. People weren't really understanding what we were doing for all these years, whatever. You're showcasing this art, this animation, this thing, and actually it was like, no, for us it's really an art movement, and it makes total sense we're going into that direction. So now thanks to that technology is amazing to see that happening.
And then last but not least, Matt, what about from the venture capital space?
Yeah, I think there's two perspectives here that I can provide from a technology leadership standpoint, from a project builder standpoint, right? Like Joab said, let the technology speak for itself, right? Don't limit it. Don't put your guardrails on it yourself. Just keep pushing the limits, keep pushing to see what you can achieve, and be open to your community. And then from an individual investor standpoint or collector standpoint, build one another up, keep collaborating with these other communities. There's a lot of communities, a lot of NFT communities out there that have great ideas, work together, collaborate together, and keep pushing the limits as a community. We are at the ground floor. We're shaping the future. Let's keep challenging those boundaries.
That's a great note to end on. So, I mean, Philip, Patricia, Joab, Matt, thank you so much for sharing your perspectives today. It's been absolutely fantastic.
Thank you, Marisa.
Pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Have an amazing afternoon. Ciao.
Take care. Bye-bye.